Hello and welcome to a walkthrough of my Seraphnet code. This is this is Seraphnet. It's not Skynet, it's Seraphnet. I thought it sounded cool, and this is my networking project that I wanted to go through to connect my laptop client, to my Raspberry Pi server. If you want to read this whole entire thing, I would recommend against it. If you want to read it, link to my GitHub will be in the description, or you probably got to this video from the GitHub anyways. So hi, welcome. How's it going? Let's poke around with the code so we can look at some of the fun stuff here. So this here is the main file that is currently running on my Raspberry Pi server. I use technically four, but I use three libraries here on this one: socket server, socket, and threading, with a super secret fourth library that we'll find out as soon as we click on that little yellow file right there. That's the reason why it's yellow. So this just sets up a quick server using using Python's socket server, makes everything kind of easy to set up, and it's in fact threaded, which makes it able to handle multiple requests at once. It just initializes the thread, says, hey, I'm going to start that, starts it, and then it starts running it around all over the place. But this is where I guess the setup happens. It's not where the magic happens. The magic happens here in request handler. The reason why this file is yellow because it's trying to import rpi.gpio, but that doesn't exist on this computer because I can't install it on this computer because this computer lacks the hardware. It doesn't have This is a laptop and it doesn't have GPIO pins. I would be surprised if any laptop had GPIO pins that you could just like plug a servo or something into. But yeah, here's some setup for the peripherals that I have attached to my Raspberry Pi. Nothing too fancy, just an LED and a servo. That was in the right order, but yeah, LED and a servo. Here's the handler. So the request handler gets called in the main function when the server is built. It just takes whatever command is sent from the client, splits it all up, says, hey, I'm usually expecting stuff to come in pairs. So the first word is going to be the command, and the second word, separated by a space there, is going to be the argument. So I just stored that as a quick list just to make things go through, continue the threading. Is some back-end stuff so you can kind of debug when you're working on the server. There are a few simple commands: echo, blink, rotate. In fact, and help as well. So all of those, when echo is called, it just does exactly that. It echoes and then sends it right back. Blink blinks the LED a few times. That's pretty neat. And these ones, at least this one and that one, blink and rotate, have more meat below. I just wanted to separate it into actual functions to make it kind of go nicely. If you see there, like self.rotate, nice little method that I call. Then there's the help command. It just returns a little bit of information. Yeah, but down here, here's where some of the fun stuff happens. You have blink and you have rotate. So when you call blink, it defaults to 1. So if anything messes up, it's going to say, hey, I don't know what you're trying to get at, so I'm just going to blink once and hope that's okay. And then if it's not okay, then figure out why you typed in something that wasn't a number, or why you didn't type in anything. It just blinks, it turns on, it sets the GPIO output to high, then it waits for 3/10 of a second and sets it to low, then waits 3/10 of a second again, and then does that over and over again for however many times you told it to blink. And then rotate. Oh, silly. It is connected to the Raspberry Pi. Yeah, so there's some complicated math here that took me a bit of trial and error to get. Just a little info about that. Servos work by receiving a small signal over the course of like 20 milliseconds, and then it says, hey, I received this for this long of my duty cycle, for 7.5% of my duty cycle, or 12.5%, or whatever percent of my duty cycle. That means I'm going to rotate this much, or I'm going to rotate to this percentage, and then it does that. So I have it wait for a little bit and then set the cycle to 0. That kind of turns off the rotation so that you don't really get a bouncy servo or anything like that. And then over to the main client file, Kind of the same thing. This is kind of bland here. It just says, hey, I want to connect. Okay. And then here in client is where it connects. This uses socket, not system. I was going to use system at one point, but not anymore. Use a socket. I don't remember what I was going to use system for, but use a socket. Sends a message, receives a message. It's got a little bit of exception handling, not anything too robust, but enough to make you know when something bad happens. Just a quick little run through. I'm going to show you how like the help and echo commands work. There we go. And if I type in help, okay, oh look at that. Okay, help, echo. It'll tell me a little bit about how to use the echo message. Okay, echo, this is a test. And there you go. And then if I just say echo, says nothing. Says absolutely nothing. And yeah, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how the peripherals that I've got work out. Okay, and here's my code right here on my laptop, and then here's the server code on my Raspberry Pi. Isn't that pretty neat? I started recording this, but it kind of ran out of memory on my phone, so hopefully I can get this done without it running out of memory again. Here's the Raspberry Pi. It's inside of this little box there. It's just got two peripherals attached to it right now to its GPIO pins there. It's got a little resistor and an LED, and it's got a servo. So let's see what the blink looks like. So right now I'm going to tell it to blink 5 times. Let's see what that looks like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then there it just says, oh look, it blinked 5 times. And then if I just say, hey, blink, it'll blink once because it doesn't know what else to do. It'll blink once, and there we go. If I tell it to blink a amount of times, it's gonna say, what does that mean? I'm just gonna blink once, make you happy. There we go, blinked once. So now let's tell it to rotate. We'll say, hey, rotate, it's hard to type with your left hand, rotate to 75 degrees. Let's see what the servo does. There we go. And what about rotate without anything? What if I just tell it to rotate? It'll rotate to 0 degrees. There we go. And if I tell it to rotate to -90, there we go. So we're going to tell it to rotate to -90 degrees. It's going to go ahead and it's going to rotate to -90. Then if I tell it to rotate to 70 degrees, to 90 degrees, it'll do a complete 180 it'll do a complete 180. So there we go. Cool. Thank you for watching. This is my code. I promise I'll try not to take over the world with like this little itty bit of software. Hope you enjoyed. Just kidding. I forgot I was gonna show off threading. Let me tell this to blink real quick, just to show you kind of the power of threading. So let's tell it to blink 100 times. Or yeah, 100 times. There we go. So it's gonna blink 100 times. Oh, and look at that. It says in thread 15, it says to blink 100 times. Okay, what if I want it to rotate? Well, it's doing that. Well, I can say, hey, rotate to 75 degrees. Let's see what that does. While it's blinking, okay, 75 was a bad choice because it's already at 90. Let's do something like -90. Oh, rotate -90. Let's see what it says. Look at that. It rotated while it was blinking. Isn't that cool? There goes thread 17 by thread, and it's at 60. I won't make you watch all of it, so yeah, now I'll say goodbye. Goodbye.